I'm not going to read all the tiny font messages here, but what I would like each of us to do, whether you're a leadership and talent focused person, or you're a Six Sigma black belt, or you're someone who sort of sees the entire picture in helping organizations, is to understand that when we see a problem, it could just be what the problem looks like, but it may also be a symptom of a deeper or more pressing problem. Sometimes we are told, oh, fix those processes. We have had X% not go according to protocol. Okay, we can approach it as a process question. And we have, I'm not the lean sensei of the entire group. I know some about lean. I know how to help people implement it. But there are people much better versed in lean and Six Sigma. But what I would like us to kind of provocatively think about is that we can't just look at it and say, well, everything is lean and that's the only thing we're going to look at ever is just lean process improvement. That's an important piece. But if it's not addressing underlying that, or really the unseen sickness in the organization, might be on the structure side, might be on the talent recruitment side, might be on the technology side. And one factor that I have observed after working with organizations now for 15 years, very often the primary disease, the underlying cancer, is in the culture side, but it spreads into processes, it spreads into structure and so on. Many of you who are lean experts, you know this because you never just rewrite a process. You're always trying to work on the way that the people work together, the culture of the and-on signal, for example, and getting people to see things holistically. Sometimes it's hard to see which pieces relate to what. Let me just read a couple of the kind of diagnostic signals I use. I'm not telling everybody to use this exact chart. This is the chart I use when I'm asked to comment on what an organization can improve on. And I separate it out like this, just to read a few of the items here. What I look at a process is, I'm not the black belt or the sensei that many of you are. I mean, you can get into the sources of waste and start applying all kinds of Japanese words to describe the exact situation. And that's beautiful, and companies absolutely benefit from it. But I'm going to make the strong assertion that you can, even with just a minimal amount of familiarity with process improvement, not at the level that many of you are at, you can start to look for things like, are the customers not getting what they want? Do the customers have to wait a long time? Can the customers not get a question answered, or a problem resolved, or an update on the status of their order? Can the customers sort of state like they're not recognized for their loyalty or their volume of purchase? And they're encountering no flexibility to their resource needs or their product needs. These are things that, obviously, this is not the list of wastes and so on, but it's a way to start saying, like, what are the results happening if a process issue is inherent in the organization? Now, part of the way I think about this is, even though they're all interrelated, I ask myself sort of the theoretical question. If everything else was perfect, but process was flawed, what would that look like? And am I seeing these kinds of symptoms to notice that? In contrast, we may have done a lean effort, and somehow it didn't achieve the results we thought it would. How could that happen? Lean is so beautiful. Why didn't it achieve the results? Very often, many of you have had the experience, well, it never really got bought into, or the leadership were not so supportive of it, or only the operating officer was, but not the rest of the leadership that was really needed. That, to me, is not a process issue. That's the culture and leadership issue. Now, the interesting thing about all of these is they're interrelated. I have it drawn here where culture is kind of the root, and then here are the other problems that can also come up if your culture is flawed. But really, the connections and the arrows for all of these could go in any direction. So what are some of the cultural symptoms I look for when I am doing a diagnostic? Are there a lot of blame going on? Is there a lot of secrets? Hard to find out what's actually happening because people are keeping secret. People are blind to risks, and they don't even bother to come up with a second plan, or a plan B, as we would say in America. Does the urgent trump the important? Well, we've been working on something that is very important for the long-term health of the organization, but we have something right now we have to do, so let's just drop all that and do the chaotic thing. If you can even sense your own anxiety level going up with chaos, I mean, of course we want to fix the process problems, but is this really a behavioral culture problem? Are we producing documents more than insights? If are we just generating paper all day? Do the decisions never feel final? Is it like, oh yeah, we talked about that last week, we said we would do this, but now let's just change it again? Are we unaware of internal duplication? Oh wait, you're doing that? The Dubai office is doing that also. Why are we both doing it? Is there extinguished enthusiasm? New employees start with a lot of energy, but by 1 year, they're like, oh, I'll just do the minimum not to get fired. Is there no tolerance for joy or sadness? In other words, if somebody looks happy, do people tend to say, like, stop smiling? It's unprofessional. Or if somebody's really distraught over something, if we say, don't look sad, that's unprofessional, that's a problem. Again, culturally varying from country to country, I can recognize that. But on a human behavior, human brain level, if we're told never have emotion, that is going to create problems. May not today, but there will be some lack of engagement, lack of buy-in, lack of extra effort that will come down the road. Clumsy about conflict. I really need to talk to Ria, but I won't talk to Ria because it's very uncomfortable. But we have to address it. Better not to talk about it. Just hope it goes away on its own. Most of those conflicts never go away on their own unless we actively learn behavioral skills about how to address the conflict. And talented people leave because their managers are awful. That's a very common one. If I hear like, oh, we've lost so many good people, then of course we want to improve processes and talent management and so on. But if good people are leaving and don't want to stay, that could reflect a cultural problem. Now, these are the symptoms I look at. I'm not necessarily telling you these are the only symptoms. If you think of 3 others that you witness a lot, sure, that's great. But I just don't want us to lose that there can be all of these happening at the same time. That's the purpose of the slide.